Thanks for joining today to go over evaluating and launching new channels successfully. So let's hop right into it. So a little bit about me. We're going to play a little game here, and I like to call it's two truths and a lie. So if you're in the chat, I'd love to get you just chatting right now, just so I can get you asking questions, etc. So the rules of engagement here is put your questions in the chat so that I can answer them as we go. But I'm gonna go through. There's about 12 slides here, but I want to make sure that you guys and everyone here, you all can ask questions along the way to make it as interactive as possible. So this first slide is just a real quick, game to get you going on your chat. So there's two truths and a lie here. So let's see if anyone can pick out which one the lie is. So I played professional water polo. I owned a dog poop bag business, or launching new marketing channels is my favorite thing to do. So let's see if the chat, I don't know if the chat right now, I'm seeing private chat. So maybe maybe I didn't set something up right, but I will wait another 10 seconds to see if anybody puts anything in the chat. Okay, we're gonna move forward. So obviously, I don't love there we go. Chat is okay. Got it. I didn't set that up yet. So okay, so launching new marketing channels is my favorite thing to do. It's not my favorite thing to do. I have other hobbies, but I used to actually play professional water polo. It took me to Hungary. I played on the USA national team, and then for the past 12 years, I've been working in the Bay Area, but now I'm in San Diego. And then I did also used to have a dog poop bag business. So cool. Let's go ahead and go to the next channel or the next slide. So about me, I back in like 2014, I started at a company called Rock U as a product manager. That turned into performance marketing. And then I went to a company called Rocket Games, which is casino gaming. And then that company got acquired by Penn Interactive Games. When I realized that I was now helping people, it's a publicly traded casino company. They have companies like the Tropicana, Las Vegas Casino. When I realized that I was helping people become gamblers now with my marketing abilities, I decided it was time to make a switch. So I moved to Lyft, where I headed up passenger acquisition. And then most recently, the last just over 2 years, I helped Masterclass, from basically everyone's heard the news about Masterclass, but I was there before anyone really knew about Masterclass, and helped build that. And then now I've left Masterclass to build SuperPeer, which is basically an online marketplace for knowledge, where we allow anybody who wants to share their knowledge to monetize that knowledge. And so we're building a knowledge marketplace. And if you haven't checked it out, go ahead and check it out, superpeer.com. And then consulting, I did lots of consulting along the way, where I work with dating apps, gaming apps, mindfulness and meditation apps, and then as well as various like e-commerce and direct-to-consumer brands, a lot of them in the YC space. For a while, Masterclass was actually one of my clients, and that's how I ended up at Masterclass, heading up lifecycle and performance marketing there. So if we go to this, today's assumption that we're going to go based off is that you want to find channels that drive incremental actions at an efficiency target. So efficiency target means like that you're acquiring people at an ROI basis, and you're looking for new channels that actually acquire new people. So that's what we're going for today. So the first step, and so I think I have 6 or 7 steps in here. But the first step in all of this is you have to establish your goal. So what is your goal? And so is it to visibility? Is it reach, unique reach? Is it downloads? Here you see downloads. Is it number of subscribers? Do you have a product that has a subscription? Or is it actually buys, like number of times people actually buy a product? So you've got to really make sure that you're establishing your goal so that it's very clear to everyone and you know exactly what that goal is you're going for. Whenever you have multiple goals, it makes it a little bit harder, but you can do it. but I would just highly recommend that when you're thinking about new channel expansion, you zero in on exactly which goal you're trying to actually accomplish or which metric you're actually trying to move. So today, I'm going to make the assumption that most people are actually, given this is like about growth, it's mostly probably based on buying or subscribing, which are very similar, but it's about the transaction of money. So I'm going to say that today's assumption is that we want to be going after the buy, and that the goal is 3% of sales at a target cost per incremental activation. That's what CPI is, cost per incremental activation, or incremental action. In this case, that action is a buy. And then that you need to have enough impact to make a significant difference. So what I mean by this is, let's say I have $100,000 a day in sales and I go and add a new channel, and now my sales are 103,000 a day. It's like, oh, okay, cool. It had a 3% impact. This channel is helping. And so the goal is to make sure that you're only going after channels that can have at least a 3% impact on sales. Otherwise, you're going after channels that could never actually make a difference for you, and you'll never actually even be able to see it. So step number 2 here is you want to create a customer profile. So this is the first step. You have to do it. And this gives you subjective understanding. So when I was in gaming, I didn't do as good of a job of this. I mean, I subjectively knew that in gaming, and specifically in casino space, usually the audience was a little bit older, especially because we were doing, I was doing casino slot machine apps. And so here, like, you really want to make sure you understand the customer profile. So if I could see the chat, I was going to ask everyone here, like, what do you think this product is that I'm talking about here? If you look at my past experience, what is it probably? So you have the product use cases, you have the customer. And so here, what I'm use cases are airport, work, date night, beach, and then different customers are 18 through 65, 50-50 male, female, education levels various, and then the location is mostly metropolitan. So if you haven't figured it out yet, this is from my time at Lyft. And so our customer profile was essentially, they could be using Lyft for a multitude of different things. So they could be using Lyft for a ride to the airport. They could be using it for work. They could be using it for date night, beach. And so understanding that customer profile is the first step that you need to actually make sure that you do, is write that customer profile. The next thing you need to do is you need to create a channel list. So now that you have your customer profile, get together with a group of people and basically start to work on, have that brainstorm, work and have everyone say, like, how would I connect with those people now that I know who they are and what their use case is? Where am I going to find those people? And so it's spending that time to then have that interaction with people to come up with that list. And so, you got here, okay, are they looking at magazines? Are they traveling a lot? Is there something here with like a plane or travel? Or are they mostly spending time at home? Are they at work? What are they watching different videos on YouTube? Like, are they spending lots of time on the computer? So are they watching TV? So it's a matter of like understanding and then creating that list. So those are the first two, those are step 2 and 3. And then step 4 is about creating a questionnaire for partners. So once you have that list of potential areas that you can go and look for or go and like advertise to, now you want to find the partner that's the best to go and actually serve up ads or in those places. So what you want to do is you want to start out with a questionnaire. You want to have a templatized list of questions that you can get back from everyone. So the questions that are super important are the payment terms. So, hey, how am I going to pay for this traffic? Is it CPM based? Is it cost per impression? Is it cost per click based? Or is it cost per like actual action based? And so make sure that you understand that. You ask that question. The next one you should ask is you have to ask, like, what is your average CPM or CTR that you see on your platform? And then the next one is audience demographics. So the reason you ask the average CPM, CTR, they're all going to say like, oh, it differs. Well, you got to get a range. It helps you really understand the math of where could this channel actually even be possible to be a viable channel before you actually go through all the effort to actually set up the page, set up the account, set up the media spend, give them all the creative, and then analyze it. So you kind of want to weed out the ones that just are never going to make it up front. The audience demographic. So how much audience overlap is there? Who is the audience? And is that audience does it have a large overlap with the channels that you're already running on? So Facebook and YouTube audience overlap is the two that I say, like Facebook's a good one, but today, I don't know, maybe you're looking at TikTok audience overlap. I don't know, but look at what audiences you already are hitting and then see what that audience overlap is based on the audience demographic that the channel gives you. And then a lot of companies today are actually giving you as well, if you ask for it, what is your audience overlap with Facebook or Instagram? When I say Facebook, I mean Facebook and Instagram. And then you want to ask for a list of similar clients. The reason this is really important is because it allows you to understand, does this agency, does this channel understand how to buy for this type of product? So I'll give you an example. Pinterest, great product for selling widgets, knickknacks. Not necessarily a great place for app install campaigns. So finding the right client, there might be a few different use cases for app install that like Pinterest works, but making sure there's clients that are similar to you on that platform that are already successful, it makes sense to you should ask for that because then it'll give you an idea if it's working for them. If it's not, there's probably a reason why, and other people have probably tested it and figured out it doesn't work. The time that this doesn't hold is when you got a brand new channel just pop up out of nowhere like TikTok, and it's like, oh my God, everyone's there, we should test it. Then there might not be clients that have already tried it and are using it for that purpose. And then the last one's incrementality capabilities. So what type of capabilities do you have just to do like a holdout to see like how incremental is it? And this will help you understand like what is the differences this channel is making. Step 5, I'm actually going to pause real quick here and just check in the chat since I'm not in the right chat and just ask, can somebody that's on the admin side, if there's questions that are popping into the chat, if you could actually put them in here, because I don't have access to this other chat feature, the swap card. It'd be great if we could just put them in here,
Sure.
if that's possible.
Yeah, if there's any questions, we'll chuck them in here. Or what I suggest, Thomas, I'll pick them up at the end and come on and field them for you. But yeah, we've had quite a few guesses successfully for the rideshare car service. So yeah, people are on the ball. Yeah.
Okay, nice. All right, awesome. So if you have questions, I will answer them, put them in. We've got 2 more slides. So I will be spending time answering those questions. So we're going to get back to the presentation now. So just add those questions in and we will get to them. We're going to leave at least 5 minutes at the end to go, 5-10 minutes at the end to go through it. So the next piece that we all want to do is we want to compile those responses and you want to prioritize them. So you can imagine you just like batched it, boom, send it out to everybody in the different channels that you brainstormed. Now it's time to like put them in a spreadsheet. Look at the answers next to each other and then say, okay, do some math. Like if this is the CPM and this is the CTR, and this is what we believe maybe the conversion rate will be, then is this even a viable channel? Like, is this even going to have a chance of being ROI positive? I'll give you an example. If CPM is $100 and you know what your CTR and CVR is, you can then say, what is my CPA going to be? And then you're like, okay, that's way higher than our LTV. This is never going to make sense as a channel. We should not pursue it. It's why you see certain companies able to do direct mail and you see others not able to do direct mail. So cut out all of those people that aren't going to make sense. If it's borderline, maybe prioritize it, but really look at like, is this company? So that's one piece. And then the other piece is, does it have enough scale for it to really matter? So is the audience size big enough for us to actually and the audience overlap, is it even enough for us to even make an impact on our actual growth? Then the last step is step 6 is like test with best practices. So once you decide on a channel, you're like, okay, I'm going to run on this channel. Let's say it's TikTok. And I'm going to say, okay, what spend level do I want to have in order to actually have an impact on incrementality? So if I'm spending 100 grand a day and I add TikTok and I spend 3K, you're probably not going to see much of an impact. You might see something, but it's not data science. Like, you're not going to see stat sig results. So like, you're probably going to say like, hey, yeah, you know what? We need to put 10K in this per day to at least like see if it makes an impact. And you might see that because of incrementality and because of audience overlap, you might see it only goes up, like your sales go up by 3-4%. You're like, okay, this is working, but you have to overshoot it in order for it to actually work. So in order for you to see that, so then the length of that test, as well as optimization like event, make sure you have that set up properly so that you're not just buying and spraying, you're actually optimizing towards an event if you can, if that channel allows it. Then there's targeting. So what type of targeting you're using. Use best practices. Have that channel help you decide on what the best practices are and go with your best foot forward to make that happen. And then what type of creative format, type, placements, and copy, like do your absolute best. Don't do something where it's like, oh, we could have done targeting better, or we could have done better format or placement or copy. Like put your best foot forward so you don't have to end up retesting. And then step 7 is don't worry about incrementality at first. Just launch with CPA and see, is the CPA even close to where it would make sense? So if my LTV is $100 and my CPA comes back at $100, then it's likely there was audience overlap. It's likely that a lot of the spend that I did was not incremental. And so it's likely that my CPIA, cost per incremental difference, is probably, even if it's 50% incremental, it's probably more like than $150. So then at that point, I'm paying $150 to get somebody that's, worth $100. So you first want to check CPA. If CPAs are coming back well under your LTV, great. This is a viable channel. Now it's time to test CPIA and do an incrementality test, which is a talk for another time. And that's it for me. So thank you, everyone. Once again, I'm Thomas Hopkins. You can check me out on SuperPeer. And there's my email address. And that's it. So I'll hop into the chat now and see if we have any questions. James is going to put some in right now, I guess.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if anyone has, we do actually have a question from Matt. Oh, here we go. He says he's asking about SuperPeer. How do you decide who can access SuperPeer?
Yeah, interesting. So I will tell you that SuperPeer, we're actually opening it up to everyone at this point. You're going to see a release here very soon where we're going to open it up to everybody. We just ask that there's no bad actors, so don't be doing anything wrong on there. Don't be teaching things that we don't agree with. But right now we do it based on knowledge. So is this person knowledgeable? SuperPeer is a knowledge marketplace. If you want to learn something, you should be able to go on SuperPeer and find the person and connect with them to learn from them directly or watch some of their content. The whole point that I believe is the reason I left Masterclass is that I believe real impact, real growth happens from, human connection. I've grown from my mentors. And so what we're building at SuperPeer is a place where you can have that real authentic human connection, because that's what I believe causes people to really make, massive changes in their life. So how we're choosing people that join on SuperPeer, go ahead and join. Anybody can at this point. But I would just say that try to be a good person.
Okay, that's good. Questions coming in. Garrison is asking, what helped get Masterclass off the ground beyond large contracts with reputable, I guess even more than reputable, amazing creators or personalities?
Yeah, great question. What Masterclass did an amazing job of is setting the standard for quality. So before Masterclass, there were people selling information. I mean, information, the knowledge economy is a $1.26 trillion industry. It's massive, right? But what Masterclass did that was different than everybody was create a cinematic experience in the knowledge space. And that didn't exist before Masterclass. They made a product that was both entertaining and educational. Yes, having celebrity status people helps with that, because it helps with advertising, and it helps give that inspiration. But what I'll tell you is that that was the game changer. That was the difference, was the ability to basically create a cinematic experience where you're on your Facebook feed or you're on YouTube and you see a Masterclass ad, you're like, okay, I'll watch this. And you almost look forward to it. And I don't know how many companies you can say that about, where it's like, I am looking for the ads, being like, I'd love to watch the next ad. And so that would be what I would say is, and even today you see Masterclass instructors they might not necessarily be like, today, today Masterclass just launched James Cameron. So kind of a big deal. But it's still, it's always been very cinematic, but you want to watch it because it's got that arc of just an amazing story within like a 2-minute ad.
I was just thinking of some of those ones I've seen with the, I'm not sure if it's Tim Rice or the composer. Yeah, it's just like you say, yeah, you want to watch it again and again. Yeah.
Yep.
So Kelly Sao Su, she is a big hitter. She's the senior director of marketing at Viacom CBS, is asking any insights on evaluating fraud with new vendors. And Taylor from Bloom's also asking that. Yeah, how do you factor in fraud or risk of fraud into your channel vetting process?
Yeah. So the other piece that I'll say is that fraud is everywhere. When you start getting outside of the top channels, the brand names that are out there where you can buy media, you're going to have fraud, guaranteed. Something like 30% of your media buying is going to be fraud. So you have to factor that into your costs, is how I think about it. So factor that into the costs. But then the other piece is what I'll say is like, if you're a new brand, or even if you're an established brand, like I highly, discourage you from trying channels that you don't know other people in the space are using or have used, because I guarantee you they've made the mistakes. And so take the time to ask around, take the time to make sure you get the other clients, ask for referrals. If they don't have those referrals, if they're not able to help you there, they're probably not a channel you want to go with. So I've been around the block with lots of fraud and I've seen it, and every channel is always like, well, wow, that's weird. I've never seen that before. Or, hey, like, I don't know what to do here. So I would say, like, as much as you want to say like, oh, find that next channel that's going to be like your great new source of like low CPIs or low CPAs, it's not really a thing. And if it is, it's usually like, fraud, or it's fleeting. It's a tiny bump that's not going to make the difference in your business over a 2-3 year period. It's like, cool, we got a quick win that like will lasted for a couple weeks. So I would just say like, make it work on the massive channels. Those are going to be the ones that make it so that you end up having like a really big business in the long run.
Got it. And what do you define as a channel? Are you talking about a network, sort of, someone's got a bit of traffic here, or are you talking about like an individual, maybe, app or something you can do an affiliate deal with, or a partnership? How do you think about the different types of channels?
Yeah, the way that I think about the different types of channels is like, what are all the ways that you could show an ad, or you can bring people to your business. Our goal is to acquire people in terms of like a purchase or a subscribe. And the way to do that is through getting their attention, get their eyeballs, get their ears. And so any way that you can do that via a channel, which is like a media channel, like, a podcast or TV or radio, as different channels would be examples, or, TikTok is another example. Another channel could be like, oh, let's do a direct deal with this website so that our ad is front and center on their page. So there's different channels. That's what I mean by different channels. Anywhere that you can actually bring people to the site. An affiliate marketing channel, like a share sell, that is a channel. And so anything where you can show impressions, or you can get people talking about your product to then drive traffic to your site, that's what I'm calling a channel.
Got it. And why look at new channels? At what point do you need to look at channels, new channels beyond just, get better at chucking money at Facebook or YouTube or any of these, is it, when you get really big and you need to scale, or is it actually much earlier than that, because you need to find, things that maybe work better? You can't compete with Supercell for Facebook inventory.
Yeah. The answer I would say is like, what I mean by new channels is you already have your base channels that work. So yes, whenever you start, if you're like talking about, I'm starting my new product, what do I need to do? Well, you start out with ASO and SEO. Like that's where you got to start. You start out with like social media and you build that out, and then you get to a certain level. And then you're like, okay, now we need to start doing paid media because we have an idea of what our LTVs of our customers are. You start adding paid media. At that point, you need to test all of the channels and see what you get. And so, but do the same process where you prioritize. What I'm talking about with this is like what this is more for, this talk was more for, is like I've already got Facebook, YouTube, Google, and now like what should I add? Which channel should I add? And then deciding on which channel it should be. And so choosing your audience, and then I can tell you like the biggest thing in that steps, the absolute biggest thing is audience overlap. Like you got to go to a place where there's this people that want your product but just haven't seen your ads yet. I can tell you it's absolutely nuts how many people don't know what Masterclass is at this point. It's crazy how many people don't know what Masterclass is, but guess what? It's because Masterclass was so big on Facebook and YouTube, but I'm sure you guys could all tell me that half of your parents are not on Facebook on YouTube. So that's where it's like, oh, there's opportunities for growth in these other areas. So look at your audience and figure out how do I get in front of them, but then still be able to tell my story with best practices for ads. That's what I mean. That's when you go after new channels, when you're like, oh, wow, we're not going after the right place. And a great example, another great example is that is like, mobile gaming. I used to be in the slot machine industry, or I was doing slot machine games. Facebook showed that it had great results, but the whales in slot machine, you go to the slot machine, you and I aren't hanging out on the slot machines. There are people like in their 60s and 70s. They're not on Facebook. They're not on TikTok. How are you going to reach those people and figure out what is the channel that I need to be on to reach those people?
Great. Well, I could happily keep sort of chatting with you, Thomas, but I suppose we've got to go on to the next session. Really appreciate you taking part. I'm glad we were able to resurrect this talk for this year. And I'm hoping maybe next time you'll be able to come back and do a talk saying a bit more about SuperPeer, how you've grown it to be such a success, and yeah, maybe some more lessons. Yeah,
of course. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity, James. Thank you, everyone, for sticking around and watching. But connect with me if you have any other follow-up questions you want to chat about.
Thanks, Thomas. That was great.